Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moments. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Battle Through the Heavens based on novel. So let's start. 2 years was not a short amount of time, but no one had expected Xiao Yan's retreat to last this long. Based on the expectations of Yao Lao and the others, it should not be difficult for Xiao Yan to break through to the Banshan class since he had the Bodhisattva heart and Bodhisattva pill helping him. The legend about refining the Bodhisattva heart to immediately enter the Shen class was a little exaggerated. After all, one must be given time to absorb an enormous amount of pure energy. One could also prove just how powerful the Bodhisattva heart was from another point of view. Although it did not allow one to enter the Shen class immediately, Xiao Yan, who was already a 9-change peak Dozun, would, at the very most, need 1 year to successfully complete his retreat. However, reality did not match everyone's expectations. Time slowly flowed by while everyone waited. Autumn replaced summer as wild grass covered the area in front of the large rock door where Xiao Yan hid. Green moss had started to cover the stone door. The area around this door had become a forbidden ground for the Falling Star Pavilion during this 1 year. With the exception of a few, even some of the guest elders were prohibited from entering. Everyone could only suppress the anxiety in their hearts after 1 year passed. It was pointless to be anxious when it came advancing. Fortunately, the most reassuring thing was that Yao Lao could sense an extremely obscure aura through the mountain. This aura was extremely faint, but it was not weak. Instead, it was as though that aura was in a transformation state. Being able to sense Xiao Yan's lingering aura had undoubtedly reduced the worry of everyone. They were unable to disturb Xiao Yan at this moment. Hence, all of them could only helpless worry as they quietly waited. While Xiao Yan was in his retreat, the Central Plains experienced a great disturbance, but the revenge of the Hall of Souls had not arrived early. Hence, the Falling Star Pavilion made full use of their remaining time to become stronger under the management of Yao Lao and Feng Zunja. Many experts had joined upon hearing their names, especially after news spread from the Falling Star Pavilion that Yao Lao could refine the Bodhisattva pill. Some of the elite peak Dozuns, who usually kept an extremely low profile, could not resist the temptation as they secretly became Falling Star Pavilion guest elders. The temptation of the Bodhisattva seed was really too great. Experts would even sacrifice some time and freedom for it. Of course, it was naturally impossible to give the Bodhisattva seed to these guest elders, who had come seeking it the moment they joined. These experts were not foolish either. They also understood that there were no free lunches in this world. Hence, they thought of ways to contribute to the Falling Star Pavilion so that there would come a time when they were trusted by Yao Lao and then could be blessed with a Bodhisattva pill, which they could use to break through to the level they had only dreamed of. In the face of this positive influence, the strength of the Falling Star Pavilion undoubtedly soared. It had become a powerful existence in the Central Plains that was not inferior to an old faction like the Profound Sky sect. However, as the Falling Star Pavilion's strength and reputation grew, the Profound Sky sect, which had formed a grudge with Xiao Yan and the Falling Star Pavilion, was unable to remain still. In the past, the territory of the Falling Star Pavilion had not been very large. Therefore, there was little conflict between the two, but the Falling Star Pavilion's territory gradually began to intersect with the Profound Sky sect. It was inevitable that conflict would erupt. One was an old faction while the other was a rising faction. The clash between the two would indeed be intense. Both parties had experienced their own respective victories and defeats after fighting for a period of time. Neither party was able to do anything about the other, but this situation did not last for long before it underwent a change. The Profound Sky sect had announced that it would form an alliance with the Ice River Valley, the Wind Lightning Pavilion, and some other renowned sects in the Central Plains. They publicly announced that the alliance would be named Profound River Alliance. This alliance had undoubtedly allowed the strength of the Profound Sky sect to soar. This gathering of experts from multiple parties had caught the Falling Star Pavilion off guard, but Yao Lao and the rest did not panic. The Falling Star Pavilion had expanded too quickly. Although the territory under its influence was vast, it was a little superficial. By experiencing this big battle, they were able to use it as an opportunity to reorganize themselves. An obese faction was not something that Yao Lao desired. Instead, he wanted a balanced elite group that could deliver a fatal blow to any enemy. Hence, Yao Lao and the rest did not organize a major retaliation as the Falling Star Pavilion shrank. They continued to withdraw. As the Falling Star Pavilion withdrew and the length of their defensive line shrank, the defensive strength of those cities near the center increased. Additionally, many guest elders personally built wormholes to be directly connected all of these important cities together. Therefore, any city could be reinforced quickly. This caused the territory of the Falling Star Pavilion to be impenetrable. Some of the attacks of the Profound River Alliance had difficulty achieving any obvious results. Instead, they had ended up suffering quite great losses after many battles. This stalemate continued for a couple of months before the Profound River Alliance had no choice but to give up attacking. They gradually withdrew. In any case, they had achieved the effect of displaying their might. They did not wish to truly become enemies with the Falling Star Pavilion and engage in a bloody battle. After all, everyone knew that it would be difficult to predict the victor. After this big war came to a temporary halt, the reputation of the Falling Star Pavilion once again exploded. It was able to rely on its own strength to fight the alliance consisting of the Profound Sky Sect, Ice River Valley, and some other factions. This was extremely rare in the Central Plains. The Profound River Alliance was quite depressed by this. Although they had managed to snatch some territories, it seemed that they had ended up promoting the Falling Star Pavilion. After a temporary peace was formed, the Central Plains became calm for a period of time. However, this peace did not last for long before a great storm was stirred from some information that had been transmitted from an unknown source. The main character of this news was one of the 8 ancient clans, the Ling clan. Back when Xiao Yan had come out of the heavenly tomb, he had learned that the Ling clan's realm had suddenly been shut. However, the news back then was only privy to some large factions, and none of them knew what had happened. Hence, the news did not spread. Not long ago, some experts discovered that the realm of the Ling clan had opened once again. When these experts entered it and probed around, they discovered that the Ling realm was completely empty. There was not a single person in it. Even the descendant citizens of the Ling clan had completely vanished. Those experts were stunned as they looked through the realm, which was void of life. A chill immediately surged from their feet to their heads. This matter was too mysterious. If one added the descendant citizens of the Ling clan, there had been millions of people in the Ling realm, yet this many people had vanished into thin air. This matter undoubtedly stirred a great commotion when it reached the ears of the other few ancient clans. Each of those clans dispatched some strong individuals to the Ling realm. Regardless of how they searched, they were unable to even find a single member of the Ling clan. It was as though the Ling clan had completely vanished when their realm was sealed. The Ling clan was also one of the 8 ancient clans. Although they had gradually shown signs of declining, it should be known that even a dying ancient faction was still more powerful than an ordinary one. Regardless of how much it declined, it could still be ranked among the super factions within the Central Plains. Even if their clan was massacred, even factions like the GU clan would find it difficult to kill all the members of the clan without notifying anyone. Of course, other than the possibility that the Ling clan was exterminated, some individuals guessed that it was very possible that the Ling clan could have moved their entire clan into another self-created realm, but it was obvious that this massive shifting could not be hidden from the peak experts in the Central Plains, yet even these people had not sensed a thing. Given the strength of the Ling clan, how could they possibly have shifted millions of descendant citizens? Regardless of what happened, the matter of the Ling clan's disappearance had undoubtedly stirred a great storm throughout the Central Plains. Various factions guessed the reason for this disappearance. While the outside world was randomly guessing what had happened, a great disagreement had also occurred within the ancient clans over this matter. These ancient clans understood each other very well, but they were not allies. They could only be described as part enemy and part friend. After all, these ancient clans had attacked each other when they were powerful. Hence, they could not be considered united. While the outsiders were feeling at a loss because of this matter, all of these clans had made their own guesses. A very long time ago, a big war had once erupted between the 8 ancient clans. The reason for that war was the Chu Shi ancient god Jade. That object that had been left behind by the last elite Do D and was rumored to possess the secret to reach the Do D class. The 8 ancient clans had once fought because of this secret. Finally, the complete Jushi ancient god Jade was split into 8 pieces. In other words, whoever wished to obtain what was left behind by the Jushi ancient god would have to gather 8 pieces of jade. Each of the clans regarded the ancient jade as more important than their lives. They would definitely not give it away without reason. Hence, there were those who had guessed that the disappearance of the Ling clan this time around might be related to the other ancient clans. Their aim was to obtain the Jushi ancient god Jade in the hands of the Ling clan. However, another round of doubt appeared after this guess was voiced. Although the Ling clan had declined, its foundation hadn't disappeared. Among the 6 remaining ancient clans, it was likely that only 2 clans had the ability to exterminate the entire Ling clan without anyone knowing. They were the Gu clan and the Hun clan. On the surface, the Gu clan was the strongest clan among the 6 remaining ancient clans. No one doubted the strength they possessed. If one were to describe the Hun clan, this clan could be considered the clan with the longest history among the 8 ancient clans. This clan had existed since ancient times. It was usually extremely mysterious, and even the other ancient clans did not dare to say that they clearly understood its strength. Although the Hun clan did not reveal that they were the strongest during the big wars of the old, anyone who carefully recalled the events would discover that the Hun clan had never fallen into a disadvantage. They were neither victorious nor defeated. From a certain point of view, that was quite frightening to accomplish. Hence, even the Gu clan maintained a healthy amount of fear for this mysterious ancient clan. These 2 ancient clans represented the strongest factions within the Dochi continent. Other than these 2 clans, not a single faction could eliminate the entire Ling clan without anyone noticing. Hence, the Gu clan and the Hun clan were undoubtedly the most suspicious factions related to the disappearance of the Ling clan. Although the other 4 ancient clans did not possess absolute evidence to determine the culprit, it was obvious that they became more cautious toward the Hun clan and the Gu clan after this incident regarding the Ling clan. If the other party was really after the Jushi ancient jade, they would definitely not stop. Since they were in possession of the remaining 4 ancient jade, one of them was likely to be the next target. The Gu clan appeared quite depressed as they dealt with this doubt that had appeared from nowhere, but they also understood the seriousness of this matter. Any actions they made would likely stir some unnecessary suspicion. Hence, they could only remain quiet. At the same time, the Hun clan did as they always did. They ignored everything and did whatever they wanted to do. In any case, the Hun clan did not require any allies. They did not care about what the others thought. Therefore, the matter regarding the Ling clan was gradually suppressed as both parties continued to remain quiet. The 6 ancient clans did not start a major war. Following the flow of time, this matter seemed to have been forgotten by others, but some people were aware that a split had formed among the 6 ancient clans. All of the clans were cautious. The matter of the Ling clan stirred quite a big commotion in the Central Plains, but the ancient clans usually kept a low profile. Hence, this commotion lasted for half a year before it gradually diminished. There were interesting occurrences happening daily within the Central Plains, so there was an uncountable number of topics to talk about. Even a big matter like the disappearance of the Ling clan could not continue being the dominant topic. Following the various interesting incidents that occurred across the Central Plains, one season changed to another. It had been nearly 2 years since Xiao Yan had undertaken his retreat. During these 2 years, there were still no signs of activity from the deep mountain where Xiao Yan had took his retreat. Wild grass grew, covering the large stone door. During these 2 years, the young disciples that the Falling Star Pavilion had recruited gradually became senior disciples. A new generation once again entered the Falling Star Pavilion to provide new blood for this faction. After Xiao Yang's quiet retreat lasted for 2 years, even some of the guest elders began to feel a little pessimistic. The deep part of the mountain was too quiet. Normally speaking, breaking through to the Banshan class should be an earth-shaking event. It would definitely attract an unnatural phenomenon, but the sky did not even hint at the slightest strange occurrence ever since Xiao Yang had undertaken his retreat. Given Yao Lao's sharp eyes, he was naturally able to sense some of the thoughts that these elders felt in their hearts. However, he did not say anything. He had always adopted the greatest trust when it came to Xiao Yan. Back when he had been captured by the Hall of Soul, Xiao Yan had relied on his own strength to make it to the Central Plains and rescue him from the hands of the Hall of Souls. All that Xiao Yan could rely on to achieve this was his own strength. Ever since that day, Yao Lao understood that this tender eagle, which had been hiding under the protection of his wings, had already soared through the sky. This continent, which was interesting and strange, was ultimately a stage for him. This was something that Yao Lao believed without a doubt. Yao Lao studied the enormous stone door that was covered in moss a short distance away. It was a long while later before he softly sighed softly, "Little fellow. This retreat of yours really worries others." Yao Lao. A ray of light suddenly rushed over from the distance while Yao Lao was softly sighing. A delicate, beautiful figure appeared behind Yao Lao. That figure surprisingly belonged to Kaylin. She had spent most of her time during these 2 years in the Falling Star Pavilion. Yao Lao had tried his best to refine various medicinal pills and had activated the Falling Star Pavilion to search for various natural treasures, all for Kaylin. Hence, Kaylin's strength had risen from a 5-star Dozun to the peak of the Dozun class. This kind of improvement could be considered quick. Being a 7-colored heaven-swallowing python, the strength of Kaylin's body was stronger than Xiao Yan's body. As long as she possessed sufficient energy, the increase in her strength would not slow. The 7-colored heaven-swallowing python had been an extremely powerful existence since ancient times. She had undoubtedly held a great advantage in terms of talent compared to Xiao Yan's bitter training. "What's wrong?" Yao Lao turned his head after seeing Kaylin appeared. He saw her somewhat grave face and asked in surprise. Kaylin's pretty eyes swept over the stone door in the distance. Her eyes dimmed as she took out a blood-red card and said, "This was delivered by the Profound River Alliance." "What is it?" Yao Lao frowned. He received the card and opened it. 3 large dark red words were immediately captured by his eyes. Declaration of war? A cold smile also surfaced on Yao Lao's face when he saw these words. His eyes were lowered. "Half a month from now, my Profound River Alliance will arrive at the Falling Star Pavilion. We will fight and see who is stronger. The winner takes all." They are actually taking the initiative to head to my Falling Star Pavilion? How arrogant. It seems that the old demon Qian Ming can no longer resist intervening. Yao Lao narrowed his eyes and coldly laughed. The Profound River Alliance has been quiet for over a year. This time around, they have suddenly issued a battle challenge and are planning to head to our Falling Star Pavilion. It seems that they must feel confident to do this. We must be cautious. Kaylin voiced her opinions. Yao Lao slightly nodded. Ever since the Falling Star Pavilion's war with the Profound River Alliance a year ago, the Profound River Alliance had not launched any other campaigns against the Falling Star Pavilion. Yao Lao understood in his heart that it was not because these people were unwilling, rather they did not want to push the Falling Star Pavilion too far. After all, Yao Lao's Bansheng strength was on display for all to see. If they wished to defeat the Falling Star Pavilion, they needed to first defeat Yao Chen. However, if they wanted to kill a Bansheng, especially a high-level one, the Profound River Alliance needed to take out 2 powerful Bansheng in order to succeed. Even with the strength of the Profound Sky Sect, they were unable to take out 2 Banshengs. There was only a Grand Elder within their sect who had reached the Bansheng class, but this Bansheng old demon had not appeared for many years. Other than this person, the Profound River Alliance did not possess any other Bansheng. Although there were many sects in the Alliance, these sects were far inferior to the Profound Sky Sect. It was naturally impossible for them to possess any experts at the Bansheng level. It was obvious that the Ice River Valley was unable to produce one. A single Profound Sky Sect Grand Elder was clearly only able to match Yao Lao, but it would not be possible to kill Yao Lao. It was precisely because of this lack of strength that the Profound River Alliance had only started some minor conflicts and had only gained a small advantage during this 1 year. Despite wanting to destroy the Falling Star Pavilion, they were unable to intervene in those areas with a greater amount of profit. This time around, they dared to issue a battle challenge, and they had even used the headquarters of the Falling Star Pavilion as the site of the challenge. No one would believe that this challenge was not problem. Issue the orders to summon all the elders who are not busy with important tasks. Additionally, order those elders guarding the key cities to be very cautious during this period of time and to guard against any sneak attacks by the Profound River Alliance. Yao Lao's shriveled hand gently rubbed the invitation in his hand. He continued in a deep voice, additionally, dispatch some spies to gather information inside the Profound River Alliance. We must know why these people suddenly possess the courage to come forth. Understood. Kaylin slightly nodded. She had already issued all of these orders when she had received the challenge card. After her performance over these 2 years, the current Kaylin was held in high regard within the Falling Star Pavilion. Everyone were aware of her status. Moreover, Xiao Yan had been determined by Yao Lao to be the next pavilion chief. In other words, Kaylin was half a pavilion chief's wife. Even some elders had to obey her orders. After these 2 years of war, everyone also understood that she was not merely a flower vase on display. Her ruthless decisiveness was something that even some men could not compare with. During this period of time, the caution level in the Falling Star Pavilion will be raised to its highest. Yao Lao coldly laughed. I wish to see just what trick that old demon Qian Ming intends to play. Cai Lin nodded once again. Her pretty eyes could not resist looking at the tightly shut rock door. She softly asked, is there still no activity from him? Yao Lao was slightly startled. He nodded gently and looked at Kaylin's somewhat dim eyes. He laughed, there is no need to worry. Nothing will happen to him. According to my guesses, he will successfully exit his retreat very soon. Kaylin bitterly laughed. She had heard these words quite a lot over these 2 years. Let's go. There are still many things that we need to do to prepare. The Profound River Alliance has come with ill intent. Yao Lao waved his hand. After which, he turned around and slowly left. Kaylin's pretty eyes looked at the stone door. A moment later, she finally sighed, turned around, and followed Yao Lao. However, no one sensed the moss on the large rock door tremble soon after those two left. A tiny line suddenly surfaced on the stone door. The Falling Star Pavilion was undoubtedly at its most secure this year because today was the day mentioned on the challenge card that came from the Profound River Alliance. The Falling Star Pavilion still did not know why the Profound River Alliance would launch a major campaign, but regardless of what the case was, the Falling Star Pavilion would not reveal any fear in front of others. The news that the experts from the Profound River Alliance would gather at the Falling Star Pavilion had already spread. Hence, many people had hurried to the Falling Star Pavilion during these few days. Everyone understood that the conflicts that had been experienced over these 2 years had caused the Profound River Alliance and the Falling Star Pavilion to truly become enemies. With this sudden situation occurring after both parties had suppressed themselves for such a long time, it would definitely be an extremely spectacular show. Many experts naturally did not want to miss such an interesting situation. The Falling Star Pavilion did not take any actions to expel the people who intended to watch the show after hearing the news. Instead, it had provided the pavilion with a reason to dispatch experts to watch the people. Anyone who acted unusual would be treated like an enemy and killed. As the anticipation of many people grew, the day stated on the challenge card slowly arrived. There was an extremely tall mountain where the main hall of the Falling Star Pavilion was located. The slopes of the mountain were extremely steep and dangerous. It was difficult for an ordinary person to ascend it. Moreover, the peak of the mountain seemed to have been hacked apart by an axe. This area had been turned into an extremely spacious and smooth square. This place was where the Falling Star Pavilion received guests. At this moment, many people stood within this densely packed square. Numerous powerful auras rose and spread across the sky. Everyone could tell that the Falling Star Pavilion had become an extremely dangerous place. Subsequently, the people in the square waited for the experts from the Profound River Alliance to arrive. Yao Lao stood with his hands behind him at the center of the square. His eyes were calm. Kaylin, the little fairy doctor, Qing Lin, and some guest elders of the Falling Star Pavilion stood behind him. This lineup was sufficient to stir the exclamations of some of the surrounding observers. We did not manage to gain much intelligence related to the operations of the Profound River Valley this time around. It is rumored that even some of the elders in the Profound River Alliance do not know why they are attacking this time around. Kaylin suddenly spoke as she looked in the direction of the entrance to the Star Realm. I? Yao Lao slightly nodded. They were too pressed for time. It was indeed a little difficult to obtain top-secret information. The Star Realm has already entered a state of high alert. Some of the weaker disciples have already been relocated and most of the elders have been summoned back. Kaylin softly reported. Everything is prepared. We are only waiting for the Profound River Alliance to come. Yao Lao nodded again. He was just about to speak when his eyes hardened. He looked at the entrance to the Star Realm and faintly said, "They are here." The hearts of everyone present tightened after hearing Yao Lao's words. Their eyes gathered on the entrance of the Star Realm. A big hole was slowly torn at that space. Immediately, a monstrous aura brutally charged into this realm like an evil ferocious beast. A faint laugh that was filled with a dark chill resounded within the Star Realm like rolling thunder. Yao Chen, it has been many years since we last met. How are you? After hearing this thunder-like voice reverberating through the air, one could see a large number of people swarming through the spatial crack. They immediately turned into many rays of light that appeared in the sky above the square within a couple of flashes. While this large group of people rushed into the Star Realm, the Do-Chi within the bodies of all the Falling Star Pavilion elders began to quietly circulate. Their eyes were filled with caution. Yao Lao slowly lifted his head. His eyes looked at the leader's spot of the large group. A dark grey-robed human figure stood in the sky at that spot. This person had long grey hair, and his face did not have many wrinkles. If not for the aged aura that filled his glittering blue eyes, no one would have regarded him as an old demon who had lived for hundreds of years. At a glance, this grey-robed person appeared extremely ordinary. Even the aura within his body was like that of an ordinary person. His entire person appeared unassuming, but everyone understood that a person who could stand there was definitely not a simple character. Old Demon Qian Ming, it is unexpected that you are still alive. Yao Lao's eyes paused on this grey-robed figure as he slowly laughed. Ha ha, even someone like you, who only had a soul left, can be revived. How can the old me die so easily? That grey-robed human figure smiled after hearing this reply. His voice was calm as he spoke. Yao Lao lifted his eyelids. He ignored old demon Qian Ming and swept his eyes over the large group behind him. It was obvious that the experts from the Profound River Alliance had all come. There were at least 100 people present, and around half of this group possessed the strength of a Dozan. This lineup, along with the Bansheng old demon Qian Ming, could be described as terrifying. This lineup might appear unusually powerful, but it was clearly insufficient if one wished to rely on these people to destroy the Falling Star Pavilion. After these years of development, the number of experts in the Falling Star Pavilion was not less than the amount in the Profound River Alliance. Moreover, Yao Lao was also an elite Bansheng like that old demon Qian Ming. The Falling Star Pavilion and the Profound River Alliance have difficulty coexisting. In the end, the old me must ultimately step forward. Yao Lao, on the account us being acquaintances in the past, as long as your Falling Star Pavilion withdraws 500 kilometers from the territories of the Profound River Alliance and promises not to start any conflict with the Profound River Alliance in the future, our Profound River Alliance will withdraw today. Old Demon Qian Ming's faint voice was transmitted through the air, causing the expressions of many Falling Star Pavilion to change. You must be dreaming. Kalins replied in an icy-cold voice. Withdrawing 500 kilometers? Wouldn't that mean that the Falling Star Pavilion would shrink by half? Moreover, they must promise not to have any conflict with the Profound River Alliance in the future. Would that not mean that they would have to submit to these people? How would the Falling Star Pavilion continue to survive in the Central Plains if they agreed to these terms? It is obvious that these people are provoking us. The little fairy doctor knit her brows as she spoke. The Profound River Alliance should be clearly aware that it was impossible for them to agree to such terms. Yao Lao's eyes calmly stared at old demon Qian Ming. A moment later, a cold smile appeared on his face. He did not withdraw. The other experts around the surrounding mountains did not dare to display any unusual actions at this moment. From the looks of it, the Profound River Alliance was clearly intending to start a war with the Falling Star Pavilion. Yao Chen, what do you say? Have you made up your mind? Old demon Qian Ming rolled his eyes as he asked after waiting for a moment. Yao Lao laughed after hearing these questions. He asked, do you think the Profound River Alliance has the qualification to utter these words, given its strength? In that case, do you mean that you disagree? Old demon Qian Ming withdrew the cold smile on his face and slowly demanded. Yao Lao smiled and nodded. He suddenly waved his hand at the same time. Bang bang! Many extremely powerful auras suddenly erupted from the surrounding mountains as Yao Lao waved his hand. Wave after wave of Do-Chi-like pillars spluttered out. They entwined themselves in the sky and finally bloomed. It appeared like a big formation that surrounded old demon Qian Ming's group in the sky. The people on the surrounding mountains were slightly startled when they saw this sudden unexpected change. It seemed that this Falling Star Pavilion had come prepared. The good show today was finally about to start. Yao Chen, it seems that you really won't give in until you are faced with grim reality. Old demon Qian Ming watched the Do-Chi-like curtain lower from the surrounding sky. A cold smile slowly appeared. After which, his eyes landed on Yao Lao as he said, given the strength of my Profound River Alliance, it is indeed difficult to destroy your Falling Star Pavilion. However, do you think that this elderly self would be so foolish to deliver myself to your hands without absolute confidence? Yao Lao's group frowned after hearing this question. Two misters, please show yourselves. Old demon Qian Ming laughed in a strange fashion. Following which, he let out a loud cry. The space beside old demon Qian Ming suddenly began to wiggle in front of everyone's eyes after his words sounded. A spatial crack was formed and two clusters of dark monstrous auras swiftly flew out of this crack in space like floodwater. Yao Lao's expression slowly sank as he sensed these two familiar auras. His eyes stared intently at the crack in space as he spit out in a gloomy voice, Hall of Souls. You people have indeed intervened. Yao Chen, I said before that your Falling Star Pavilion will be turned into ruin sooner or later. However, you should also be glad that this has been delayed by 2 years. A churning black fog surged out of the crack in space and two figures slowly appeared in front of many pairs of eyes. At the same time, a dark and cold laugh also sounded. Guu. A dense expression flashed across Yao Lao's eyes after hearing this strange laughter. A black fog churned in the sky before slowly scattering. Two figures appeared in front of everyone's eyes. The first was a skeleton-like old man who was surprisingly the second gentleman of the Hall of Souls, Guu, whom they had met in the ancient wasteland region. Another figure stood behind him. Although the aura of this person was not as strong, this person also possessed the strength of a Bansheng, but it was that of an initial-level Bansheng. Two Banshengs. If one included old demon Qian Ming, there was a total of 3 of them. This lineup immediately caused many to gently inhale a breath of cool air. The faces of some elders from the Falling Star Pavilion began to turn pale. Yao Chen, do you need to reconsider the conditions that I offered earlier? A strange smile surfaced on old demon Qian Ming's face as he asked in a sinister manner. Yao Lao's expression was gloomy. He slowly clenched his hand under his sleeve. Yao Lao, it is pointless to admit defeat. Given the Hall of Souls and Profound River Alliance's methods, it is impossible for them to continue to allow us to survive. Cai Lin's face was icy cold. A chilly glint flickered within her pretty eyes. Now, we have no other choice but to fight them to death. The surrounding Falling Star Pavilion's experts looked at Yao Lao and waited for his decision. Yao Lao gently exhaled. A moment later, he nodded. He also understood this reasoning. Since this is the case, let's fight with them. A ferocious expression surfaced on Yao Lao's face after he uttered those last few words. Old demon Qian Ming was monitoring Yao Lao's expression. After seeing a ruthlessness surface on Yao Lao's face, he understood that the Falling Star Pavilion would not submit. The dense smile on his face quickly intensified as he said, "It seems that this Falling Star Pavilion will not be able to avoid bloodshed today. It's just as well. There are many experts present. We will be able to collect some souls at the same time." Gu laughed in a strange fashion. His tone clearly indicated that he thought little of the Falling Star Pavilion. They had 2 high-level Banshengs on their side and 1 initial-level Bansheng. This strength was clearly not something the Falling Star Pavilion could compare with. Today, they had arrived with the intention of killing. The Falling Star Pavilion would definitely be eliminated from the Central Plains forever. Yao Lao's expression was gloomy as he stared at Gu's group. He spoke in a deep voice, "Leave Gu and old demon Qianming for me to deal with. Kailin, Qinglin, the little fairy doctor, the 3 of you will block that other initial-level Bansheng." The Bansheng class was divided into the initial, intermediate, and high level. Each sub-level possessed a great gap between them. The initial Bansheng class expert from the Hall of Souls should have just reached that level. He had yet to fully gain control his strength. Even though Kailin and the other 2 would find it difficult to defeat him, it was still possible to delay him a little. Yao Lao. The expressions of Kailin's group changed when they heard that Yao Lao was planning to fight 2 people by himself. Although Yao Lao was a high-level Bansheng, neither old demon Qianming nor Gu was weaker than him. Yao Lao would be at a disadvantage if those 2 were to join hands. Yao Lao waved his hand. He was clearly aware of the risk, but he did not have any other choices right now. An elite Bansheng was an extremely great pressure in this kind of fight. If these 2 Banshengs from the Hall of Souls were allowed to attack the other experts from the Falling Star Pavilion, it would undoubtedly be a one-sided massacre. If a massacre occurred, the Falling Star Pavilion would completely collapse. Hence, he needed to fight the other party's Bansheng at any cost. "Let's just do it this way. All of you should be careful." Yao Lao did not say anything more after that. His body moved. He appeared a short distance in front of old demon Qianming and Gu. Monstrous Do Chi spread out of his body and locked onto those 2. "Yao Chen, you are really arrogant to think that you can block the both of us by yourself." Old demon Qianming and Gu immediately laughed after sensing that they had been locked onto by Yao Lao's aura. Yao Lao ignored their ridicule. His expression was dark and gloomy as a terrifying and pressurizing Do Chi lingered around his body. This Do Chi caused space itself to continuously distort. "Attack. Don't kill those who surrender. Kill all those who stubbornly resist." Old demon Qianming coldly laughed as he sensed the pressure from Yao Lao. He stepped forward and a sudden cold cry, which was filled with murderous intent, rang out. "Understood." Hearing this cold cry from old demon Qianming, the many experts from the Profound River Alliance immediately revealed their murderous desires. Many majestic Do Chis erupted from all directions. At the same time, many experts on the Falling Star Pavilion's side began to circulate their Do Chi. Their expressions were unfriendly as they stared at those from the Profound River Alliance. "Charge!" This face-off continued for a moment before a ferocious cry suddenly sounded. The many experts from the Profound River Alliance flashed and turned into many rays of light that charged toward the square with lightning-like speed. The experts from the Falling Star Pavilion were unwilling to stay behind as they also charged forward. They clashed with the experts from the Profound River Alliance in the air and an earth-shaking explosion erupted across the star realm. The surrounding individuals hurriedly withdrew into the distance as they watched this big war swiftly erupt. They were afraid of being implicated. "Hee, brother Gu, let's also act to finish off this old fellow Yao Chen." Old demon Qianming loudly laughed after watching the big battle erupt in an instant. "I?" Gu nodded in a dark manner upon hearing Qianming's words. He had been planning to flatten the Falling Star Pavilion 2 years ago, but due to some schemes in the clan, he had no choice but to put the matters aside. Now that some of those schemes had progressed, he was finally able to find an opportunity to inform the clan and lead Third Qianzuan, who had only just broken through, to find old demon Qianming. Gu promised to help Qianming eliminate the Falling Star Pavilion. The Profound River Alliance, which had been fighting with the Falling Star Pavilion for 2 years, was extremely happy upon hearing that a super faction like the Hall of Souls was willing to aid them. They immediately gathered their forces and subsequently caused this scene today. Ha ha, it has been many years since I have fought. Even my bones are a little rusty. However, being able to use a high-level Bansheng as a congratulatory gift for the exit of my retreat makes it really worthwhile. Old Demon Qianming laughed in a strange fashion. His foot suddenly stepped through the air as a monstrous Do Qi swept out. His body flashed and appeared in front of Yao Lao. His white hand was like an eagle claw as it penetrated empty space and grabbed at Yao Lao's throat. Humph! Yao Lao let out a cold snort when he sensed Old Demon Qianming's swift and ruthless attack. He did not dodge the attack. Instead, his fist, which contained a frightening force, mercilessly attacked Old Demon Qianming's head. From the looks of it, he was planning to exchange one life for another. My life is much more valuable than yours. Old Demon Qianming's expression changed when he saw this attack, causing him to coldly laugh. They completely had the upper hand. It was naturally impossible for him to engage in an all-out fight with others. He quickly withdrew his claw and pulled back with lightning-like speed, dodging Yao Lao's punch in the process. Yao Lao was about to give chase after his punch missed when a black fog suddenly pounced over. A miserable screech was emitted from the black fog. A black chain broke through the fog and cut the surrounding space, forming many black cracked lines. Get lost! Yao Lao's expression was dark and cold. His large hand grabbed at the empty space in front of him. The space itself abruptly stilled, repelling those black chains. At the same time, his body flashed and he charged into the black fog. His fist furiously smashed toward a certain spot in the black fog. Bang! A muffled sound was immediately emitted as his punch landed. Soon after, the body of Ji Yu stumbled and shot out of the black fog. Although the three of them were all high-level Bansheng, Yao Lao possessed an advantage that an ordinary Bansheng did not possess since his spiritual strength far exceeded theirs. The benefits of one's spiritual strength when fighting against those of the same level would enable one to gain an advantage. Attack together! Surprise flashed across Old Demon Qianming's eyes when he saw Ji Yu was forced back by Yao Lao. He immediately cried out in a deep voice. I? Ji Yu's expression was dark as he nodded. The two of them shot out at the same time. Monstrous Do Qi appeared like a ferocious dragon sweeping over the sky as they rushed toward Yao Lao. The large space collapsed during this frightening exchange. While Yao Lao was holding off Old Demon Qianming and Ji Yu, the third Qianzuan from the Hall of Souls had looked at the chaotic battles below. He was about to intervene when a seven-colored lightning suddenly struck from the sky. Humph! This sudden attack caused the eyes of the third Qianzuan to turn cold. He waved his sleeve and forcefully shattered that thunderbolt. His eyes followed the attack back to its point of origin where he saw a 10,000-foot-long seven-colored python. It lingered in the air as a strange pressure quietly descended. Seven-colored heaven-swallowing python. A surprised expression flashed across the third Qianzuan's eyes after he saw this large python. He was just about to attack when a 10-foot-wide grayish-brown pillar explosively shot over. The scent of the lethal poison in that pillar caused him to frown. He clenched his hand and space itself was solidifying the Do Qi pillar at the same time. He immediately flicked his finger and shattered it. Hiss! Soon after shattering the Do Qi pillar that contained a lethal poison, a mysterious voice was suddenly transmitted from in front of him. The third Qianzuan's eyes swept over. His eyes immediately hardened when he saw a green-clothed lady floating in the air. A 10,000-foot large nine-headed snake illusory figure was vaguely visible. Ancient Heaven Serpent? Seeing that enormous snake-shaped illusory figure, a solemn expression finally surged onto third Qianzuan's face. Although these three women were all peak Dozuns, one of them was a seven-colored heaven-swallowing python, another possessed a lethal Do Qi filled with poison that even gave him a sense of danger, and the last had the Ancient Heaven Serpent. This combination caused even him to feel some pressure since he had just broken through to the Bansheng class. The third Qianzuan's eyes quickly turned icy cold as a glint flashed in them. Regardless of how long it had been since he had broken through to the Bansheng class, he was still a genuine Bansheng. Even though these three women possessed extraordinary abilities, it was impossible for them to truly fight against him. Today, the Falling Star Pavilion will definitely be exterminated. The third Tianzuan coldly laughed. His body flashed and he appeared in front of Qing Lin in a ghost-like fashion. Frightening Do Qi gathered into a layer of unusual crystals. After which, a palm was slammed toward Qing Lin. Qing Lin was startled as she sensed the speed of the third Tianzuan that caught her off guard. Light flickered in her eyes as a figure appeared in front of her. Bang! The third Tianzuan's hand slammed down and crushed the expert Do Zun under Qing Lin's control into a pile of mincemeat. She has the legendary triple jade green snake flower pupils. No wonder she is able to control the ancient heaven serpent soul. The third Tianzuan was a person with vast experience. He managed to identify Qing Lin's secret at a glance. He was about to attack once again when a seven-colored thunderbolt once again struck, and the little fairy doctor, whose black hair had turned white, rushed over from behind. Her ferocious attack targeted the third Tianzuan. The third Tianzuan coldly laughed after sensing that he had been surrounded. The Do Qi within his body erupted like a volcano and swept apart in front of many shocked eyes. While an incomparably intense battle had erupted within the Star Realm, the mountain at the back remained as quiet as ever. The huge rock door stood quietly. Crack! This silence continued for a while before many tiny crack lines began to spread over the mountain around the rock door. These cracks might have been tiny, but they were extremely deep. It was as though they had spread from the center of the mountain. Following the appearance of these cracked lines, there seemed to be something slowly awakening deep within the mountain. This video will end here.